Hello, we have made our way to chapter 13 about distribution, which is one of the most underappreciated parts of business. So let's talk about distribution strategy. So basically, how are we getting our product to the people who are buying it? And so this is one of these things that if we can't do it properly, we are going to go out of business because we can have the best product in the world, but if we can't get to someone, it doesn't matter. So we're going to talk about some different ways of doing this and how it works. So let's talk about channels of distribution. It's basically an organization. Imagine a web of manufacturers, warehousers, breakups, and then retailers. That's how it's going to work. And then the physical distribution, how are we getting it there? Are we flying it? Are we shipping it? Are we driving it? How are we getting it there? All right, so direct channel is basically where I would send something to you directly. So you order a water bottle from me, I would send it to you. We're done. The channel intermediaries is that where I make a bottle, it goes to wholesalers, and then the wholesalers will give it to other people, breakup agents get to retailers. So every time someone touches that product, the cost goes up. Also, the risk of it not getting to where it needs to be goes up as well. So that direct channel is one of the best ways you can do it, just from you to your customer. All right. We've talked about utilities before in other chapters. And so just one other thing I just want to emphasize with this is that any one of these six that you see in front of you plays an important key role. Okay. So I don't want you to think I'm discounting any of this, but I do want you to think about the place utility, where the product is and how we're getting it there. So, you go to a sporting event, they're going to charge an exorbitant amount of money for a soft drink or whatever food or drink that you want. It's place utility. They had to get the product there. They're paying rent in that product. They're paying commission to their workers. So there's many ways and that price goes up. And that's why I told you in the last slide. The more hands that touch it, the more expensive it's going to get. All right, so you can see this idea here about the market intermediaries, and this is kind of a cool graph. You can see the manufacturer to direct customer. That's, there's a lot of things going on there, and you may do this with some places where you shop for e-commerce. But in regards to the manufacturer, they could say, all right, we're going to produce a magazine that, actually in my instance, I did work in a magazine, U.S. News. And so we would go to the printer, we would go to a warehouse and cross the country. They would give it to a breakup agent. So the wholesaler would go, okay, I got people in Chicago, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. And so we're going to give magazines to these breakup agents. Then the breakup agents say, okay, here I am in Chicago. I have retailers in, let's say, Rockford, Gary, Joliet. So then they bring it to those areas. And in those areas, Joliet may say, hey, okay, I get to my retailers in different parts of the region. So again, multiple hands touch the product. And when multiple hands touch product, again, I've said this before, the cost goes up. So you're paying a lot for distribution. So let me give you an example. When I was at US News, this was in 1996 to 1999. Per magazine cost was 25 cents. That's it. We charged $3.99 for our newsstand copies. You probably think, well, wow, that's quite a markup. Well, when you consider that over 50% of that, from 25 cents to $3.99, was all about transportation and distribution and warehousing and anything else that goes involved with the transportation. That's why. That's why it went up, because it was so many people touching them. The newsstand, we made our most money in the newsstands, but we try to get subscribers because then we can go to the US mail and then we can do our rate base, which is a totally different topic. All right, so retailers we talked about, these are the ones who are going to get the copies to the user or product to the user. Wholesalers, again, they break up the product, they go through the product, give it to breakup agents. and then they will go and distribute those products. So we talked about agents and breakups. I got a little bit ahead of myself. It was hard to us to do it in bits and pieces. So I thought it was best to give it to you as one big whole. I mean, the pardon the pun there, the wholesalers, but to give you as one big whole rather than just try to piece it together. So that's why you're seeing some of the stuff on the slides that we talked about earlier. That's why I did it. I know a better way of doing it. So agents and breakups, these people are very important because without them, you can't get your product out. And so you have to have a good relationship. You have to overpay. When we get to the IT chapter, I'm going to talk to you about how it's so important to make friends with the IT people. The same holds true with your wholesalers and with your breakup agents because without them, your product doesn't go out the door. And in some parts of the country, there's not very many wholesalers, there's not very many breakups. And so they kind of got you. And so you need to be nice to them. Right? So in regards to drop shipment, what a drop shipment is where the wholesaler will send the product out from their facility to you. So let's say, for example, to go back to the water bottles. If the water bottles I made in company X or city X, my wholesalers in city Y, they would ship the water bottle from company Y from city Y to the customer. It's it's okay, but you lose control over it. And I always wanted to keep control over my product as much as possible because you get calls from your end customer or from your retailer say, "Hey, where's my product?" And now you got to go backtrack and play detective and try and find it. Um, in regards to in regards to multi-channel retailing, it's just different places to buy products. So, like for example, let's go to a newspaper. A newspaper you can buy in a bookstore, you could buy at a gas station. You may buy something at Starbucks. It used to be at McDonald's too. So there are different places where you can buy this, and so that's an example of multi-channel retailing. Store retailers, they do have intensive distribution. They will have facilities across the country and in the region that serve specific stores. And so they want product in their stores because they make profit from selling your product. You're paying them to sell the product. They want it available. They want many options as possible. Now, you're also paying for space in that store as well. So you need to be careful about that. When we did the magazines way back when, the booksellers like Barnes and Noble at that time, Borders, Crockett Batanos, I know I'm dating myself with these names. They were guaranteed 50 cents per cover for displaying their magazines. They were making even if they didn't sell it, they got 50 cents. So when you give them 10 magazines a week, that's $5. I know it doesn't add up a lot, but when back in the day, when you had all these magazines on the shelf, it added up. So that's kind of the intensive distribution. Non-retail stores, you're very familiar with this. Amazon, you may shop at Walmart.com, and these are where individuals will ship directly to you. There might be some drop shipping involved. Amazon, I know, has a warehouse full of materials, and they can ship from there. So that would be kind of a form of drop shipping. Um, in regards to vending machines, we've all do this. It's hot day, you want to get a can of soda, or maybe you want a bag of chips, you need a snack. We've all done vending. So some things to touch base on here, categories, the category killer, these are the big stores. These are the big box stores. You can see here the example of Office Max. So they have large retail spaces that sell many types of products here. Department stores, I miss department stores. I mean, there's still some around. You may see like Macy's and some other stores are around, but you used to be able to go to a Sears and you shop for clothes, you shop for hardware, you get sporting goods. It was all in different departments, hence the department store. And it was a great experience. And I'm not going to dwell on the past, but it was a great times. The discount stores, these are the ones that really put pricing on their the manufacturers of goods to keep the prices down. And so you see Target, Walmart, Kmart back in the day. And so these companies are offering prices or products based on price, and they're trying to win customers based on price. All right. So it's a tough way of it's a tough way of running a business. It's a tough way of doing business with organizations like this because they're putting price pressures on you so that they're selling product at lower cost. Just a couple other things. I think you're pretty familiar with the supermarket, the super centers. The super centers are kind of like the old department stores, but now you do groceries, you can get sporting goods, you can get clothes. So those are kind of like the old department stores. It just the old department stores had a better feel to them. It was just nice. They had personality to them. Okay. Logistics. If you're ever looking for some type of career, I think I may mention this to you in a previous chapter. Logistics is it. There's always going to be products being shipped, either be drop shipped, it's going to be direct to consumer. There's going to be types of products going to warehousing to distribution chain to breakage agents and into retailer. There's always going to be a need for this. Supply chain management. This is a totally different topic, and we can do so much with this. But I know I'm limited in the time I'm talking to you. So the one thing I want to talk to you about in supply chain management is keeping track of inventories, keeping inventories low, making sure you don't run out of product, and if making sure you get the raw materials to produce your product so that the product can go out to your end customer. That's all I'm going to say about supply chain management. There are classes on supply chain management. There's degrees on supply chain management, but I just want to give you a brief 30-second overview about what it is. So in elements of the supply chain, as we talked about here, the raw materials, getting it to the production area, and then we go back out to our customers. So think about a funnel, if you will. You make this product, it comes in a funnel, you produce, and then that product is produced and it goes to the end customer. Um, Again, if you want to in a career, this is great. Some of my past career at US News, I was part of the supply chain. I took care of the blowing and binding cards. I took care of the paper, and that was a cool job. That was a really cool job. In regards to the physical distribution, um, that's the transporting the product. Yes, there's warehousing. We've talked about that extensively. Inventory control, you want to keep your inventories as low as possible, just for the sake of not tying up all your cash. Customer service, a lot of people have the same product, but it's the customer service that differentiates company A from company B. So focus heavily and hard on customer service. And then, of course, transportation. Just be careful when you contract someone to transport your product, they will charge you a premium. I know when I was an estimator, I would charge 100% more for transportation. So if the transportation cost $100, they would charge over $200 for that transportation. Um, so it's a way for the trucking companies to make money. So if you are familiar with it and if you can do it, order your own transportation, or better yet, have your own trunking system or have your own way of distributing yourself and keep it in-house. All right, so modes of transportation, you know this. I'm not going to talk about planes, trains, and automobiles. I think you have a pretty good idea about that. Um, we, oops, I didn't. I meant to get rid of that one. So in regards to pricing objectives and strategies, the idea of getting a product out the door cheap, good, and the product is of high quality, that that creates a prestige for the organization. That's one thing that you want, and it's hard to earn. It's easy to lose, but it's very hard to earn and even harder to get back once you lose it. So once you determine how you're going to get your product to the customer, make sure it's high quality, make sure you have great customer service, follow through if necessary, and create them where they want to order with you over and over and over again. So there's different types of pricing strategies. One you're probably familiar with the most is the penetration pricing. That is where a new product will come to market and it is going to be sold at the lowest cost possible just to try to get people enticed to buy in that product. Now, eventually you raise the price over time, but that penetration pricing is to get that market share or try to develop a market share. Um, high-low pricing. Um, what you're doing here is that you see the retail stores buy special sales on a limited number of products. These are the one-day sales. So you come in and say, hey, Fourth of July sale, Fourth of July only. We sell 20% off of tennis shoes. You're going to lower the price on the tennis shoes, but then you're going to have prices are going to be a little bit higher on other products. So you want to just try to get to people, entice the store. One day sales do work, but you don't want to overdo them. All right, I'm not going to worry too much about the formula in terms of break-even analysis. You can see the formula here. Total fixed costs. The fixed costs are going to be your mortgage on the property. Perhaps you have equipment that you have to pay on each month. It could be a truck or a van. So those are your total fixed costs. The variable costs are going to be electricity. It's going to be the number of hours worked. It's going to be the cost of materials. So number and if you had any overtime, et cetera, that goes with the employee hours worked. But that's the variable cost. You'll learn more about fixed costs and variable costs in economics classes. Um, the way to cover costs, because obviously there's a fluctuation in costs over time. Yes, you can raise prices. Um, decrease the variable costs. That's a hard one. That's cutting out people. You don't want to do that. Also, what happens is that you may want to use a different material that may not be as higher quality. I think people would be more accepting of the higher quality and a higher price than keeping the price the same at a lower quality. Profit margin, this is just simply how much money you get. Well, the profit is, your production minus your cost, and that's going to be your profit. Profit margins, you want to do this in between, 10% for profit margin, 15% for profit margin. It depends. All right. It depends upon the product. Like Walmart, Target, they have a lower profit margin, where you see your higher end stores are going to have a higher profit margin. So, but that's how they're marketed. The way they do their business. Last thing I want to talk about here is the odd pricing technique. So you ever notice you go to the gas station and you might see gas for $2.99, nine. So having that odd pricing psychologically is cheaper than say $3, because 2.99 is still 2.99 still sounds cheaper than $3. And so that's why you see that odd pricing. It just makes people think, hey, things are cheaper. I'm doing better. And so that's why you see that in gas stations. Okay, so that is our chapter 13 discussion. As always, hope you enjoyed them. And as always, too, if you have any questions, please let me know. And I will see you in chapter 14. Take care.